Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. Today, Ian Selbie, who has trained over 17,000 sales professionals worldwide, shares his proven approach to sales effectiveness, helping companies of all sizes improve forecasting accuracy, strengthen customer loyalty, and drive revenue growth. Write all those down. It's important. In this episode, he shares actionable strategies that you can use right now to close more deals, lead stronger sales teams, and deliver lasting results. And today, we are sponsored by Damon Lemby. Now, Damon is the CEO of Learnit, Learnit, and he is the author of the Learn It All Leader, Mindset, Traits, and Tools. Now, Damon, and he's a friend of mine, I'll tell you right now, I have great respect for him. He is passionate about helping individuals and organizations thrive through continuous learning and leadership development. And in my opinion, his work is a must-read for anyone looking to grow personally and professionally in today's ever-evolving business. So thank you, Damon, for supporting this episode and for your commitment to empowering leaders everywhere. You can find Damon at Learnit, I hate saying that, learnit.com. So today, as I mentioned, I am joined by Ian Selbie. Now, he is a sales leader whose career includes winning Apple's top salesperson in the world award, which that's huge, and helping organizations sharpen their sales. It's going to be a day. Sharpen their sales strategy and execution. He's also the author of If You Were Arrested for Selling, Would There Be Enough Evidence to Convict You? I love that title. And more importantly to me, he is also the host of the podcast Confessions of a Sales Pro. So in this conversation, you will learn how to improve forecasting accuracy, build stronger customer loyalty, hire more effectively, and boost both revenues and margins. He's going to share actionable insights to help you sell smarter and lead stronger. Ian, welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I'm really excited about today's conversation and the insights that you're bringing to the table. But before we dive in, would you share a little bit about your journey and the impact that you aim to make in the world?
Absolutely, Denise, and thank you for having me on your amazing podcast, Your Partner in Success Radio. It's my honor and my pleasure to be here with you and the listeners today. Yeah, I've been in sales for a very long time. I think back to my career early on in 1984. I was with Apple, as you already mentioned, had a 10-year run with Apple. I remember meeting Steve Jobs for the first time. That was quite an impact. I still have the picture of him and I on my desk. And later, as you referenced, when I wrote a few books, I put the picture, of course, got it digitally enhanced and put the picture in the books that I authored as well. But Apple was an amazing journey. I was there for 10 years, and they were an amazing company. I think for the most part still are. They knew how to invest in their people, Denise. So they would send us on countless training programs, on presentations, on consultative selling, on how to partner with partners. So they really invested in their people, and so many people at Apple afterwards went on to be entrepreneurs themselves. And I think a lot of that training, those foundations that were given to us in Apple, has shaped many destinies, many employees that after they left Apple went on to make a dent in their own universes. So the Apple journey was, I think, very influential in my life, and the culture it gave and the lessons I've learned, I treasure, and I've made them a part of the training I've provided over the years. And that journey, as you referenced, I've trained, I guess, over 17,000 now in 8 countries around the world, all of which in English, because my Spanish and my French aren't very good. But yeah, that whole culture piece that Apple gave me is still very much alive in the content that I bring to the table when I've got an engagement with clients. 29 years later, I'm still doing what I do, Denise, and I love it. A friend of ours that we have in common, Randy, I love what you do and do what you love, and I feel like I've been blessed to still be in that position. So that's a little bit of my backstory. I still love what I get to do, and that's what's really important.
And we're talking about Randy Chaffee. For those who are wondering who in the heck Randy is, he's a good friend to us and to Bengay the Third. And we're always, sharing each other's lessons, if you will. But I wanted to go back just a bit to what you were saying earlier. You're talking about the Apple culture. What lessons from that time still shape the way you approach sales today?
Well, Apple did such an amazing job, as mentioned, about training. I learned some really important lessons about account management when I was with Apple. And I always say it's funny, Denise, you can take the boy out of Apple, but it's hard to take the apple out of the boy. When I tell Apple stories, I still use the word we. Back in the day, we used to do this. It's funny. I don't know why that is. 30 years later, I'm not at Apple, but I'd still talk about we. Um, when we decided that we were great in the education market, desktop publishing, the consumer market. But Apple at that point decided to go after enterprise. And so rather than, take the long road, we took the shortcut, which was to go ahead and just hire a bunch of IBM salespeople, because IBM trained their people so well. Back in the day, Denise, they would spend an IBM salesperson spent 6 months in training before they were allowed to see a customer. Now, no one can
Oh, I
afford.
didn't know that.
Yes, no one can afford to do that these days, right? That is a huge, intellectual, human capital investment they made, but they did a wonderful job of training, especially on the platform of account management. So we hired a bunch. It turns out it wasn't that hard. We just paid them more money, and they were able to cross the street and now work for us. And we learned a lot about account management from the people we hired. And they had a wonderful tool called an account review tool. And it was a 25-page document. And back in those days, an IBM sales rep might have had 2 or 3 customers. So they had the bandwidth to go that deep on every account. No one these days can afford to have 2 or 3 accounts. We've all got 20 or 30, and we're looking for our next 30 or 40. So I took that account management tool and I turned it into a 2-page tool. And it basically covers the same thing. And I utilized that tool that I learned from IBM to turn a $75,000 a year account into 3.5 to 4 million a year account for about a 5 or 6 year run. So their methodology worked so well. That would be one of the things I took from my Apple experience. And there were so many other things about vision and loyalty and the value of people and team. When you referenced the fact when I won my sales award back in, I guess it was 1990, many years ago. Some of our listeners weren't alive yet, I'm sure. But it was thanks to that tool and a very large enterprise account in Western Canada that was able to get me on stage. And I still remember my big mugshot came up on the screen. We were in Hawaii, and I'm running down the aisle to get up on stage and give. By then, Steve Jobs had left the company. Obviously, he came back, but it was John Scully who I gave the big bear hug to. And my systems engineer, a woman named Sean, was sitting in the front row. She jumped out to give me a hug, and my momentum, because I was running down the aisle, I just gave her a hug and I carried her up on stage with me. She's, "What are you doing?" I said, No, Sean, we won this together. Thanks to
Oh,
my systems engineer, my sales director at the time, another fellow named Ian Adam. It was a team. So I learned a lot about team at Apple. It was just that environment. They would invest in their people. They would invest in ideas. It was a very entrepreneurial corporate environment, which is almost, you never see those kinds of things anymore. Typical large organizations feel like they're run by spreadsheets and accountants instead of people and passion. So that's still very much alive in me today, Denise. There's no question.
well, that makes sense. And one thing that I notice about Apple right now is how focused they are. They don't throw a whole bunch of stuff at you and say, "Oh, you can choose this. You get an Apple phone. That's pretty much, they're going to give you 1 or 2 choices. That's it."
Right. Absolutely. And I know when Steve left, well, he was asked to leave, and they added a whole bunch of different things. And when he came back, He got rid of 75% of the product line, and he got back to focus. If
I
it's worth
remember
doing,
that
it's worth doing
story.
well, and have a big reputation for a few things instead of average at many. And so Steve brought that back to the table at Apple, and I think that's fueled their success for the last decade plus for sure.
Well, and it does make sense. If you give people, and I learned this a long time ago, if you give people more than 3 choices, they just go, "Let me think about it," because they don't know. They don't know what to choose, they're confused, they're irritated. Just focus and give them what you want to give them, and that's it.
That's right. Fewer choices make for quicker and better decisions, right? Do you want the blue one or you want the? I like when the iMac came out. That was one of Steve's rebirths when he came back to Apple. They came in different colors, so it wasn't like, do you want to buy an iMac? It's what color iMac do you want?
Right. Kinda like Henry Ford, you can have any color you want as long as it's black. That was
As
it.
long as it's black.
Yeah. Whatever you like, but it's gonna be black.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. But it made sense because, why was he going to paint things purple or green or red? You got a black car.
Yeah. Yeah. Simplicity, though. I mean, that helps the
Yes.
buyer
Yeah.
completely.
It really does. And you talk a lot about the 7 deadly sins of sales. And, on this podcast, I talk a lot about sales and leadership. Not so much about the 7 deadly sins, though. So, which of these do you see most often, and why are they so costly down the road?
Oh, they are very costly. There's 7, but there's 3 or 4 that most salespeople are guilty of. There's no question about it. Like when I come into a sales organization for the first time, and usually I'm in the C-suite talking to senior management, I'll ask them a few questions. Even the title of my book is one of those kind of questions. If your sales force were arrested for selling, would there be enough evidence to convict them? And quite often, a CEO will read back, well, a couple of them we'd be doing life sentences. They're amazing. I wish I could clone them. If they had brothers and sisters, I'd hire them too. But the rest, I'd like to fire them and start over, right? That's a typical answer I get. One of the biggest sins, Denise, that I see and still today is not calling on the right level first. So we've got there's approvers, decision makers, and there's influencers. And salespeople who are calling on an organization for the first time, it's easier to get a meeting with an influencer than a decision maker. Yet an influencer can only say no. They don't have the autonomy to say yes. So a lot of salespeople make that mistake. One of the 7 deadly sins is not calling on the decision maker first. Is it harder to get in to get those meetings? Yes. Is it worth being patient and persistent to get through? Absolutely. Because now you're dealing with someone that can say yes. And so, knowing who the real decision maker is in an organization, having a strategy to get in, and then there's lots of things you can do to add value at that level. Our value is not limited by the product or the service that we represent. If I know, I'll say this is, I've got okay, you want to learn how to be more effective at selling? I've got a 2-day course for you. Well, if you'd like a quote, that's free. I'll give you the quote. So here's the quote. Call high. So that means call the decision makers first. Find the pain. So what is their business pain? What keeps them awake at night? What are they trying to do? What are their biggest objectives, right? What are the things that are also in the way of getting those things completed? So find the business pain, bring the gain. So that gain is not limited to the product or the service that you represent. If I know someone's business pain, I can add extended value well beyond my product or service. Through introduction, perhaps through information. Maybe I've got another client that dealt with the same issues and they were able to sit, so I could do an introduction, and all of a sudden now I'm creating a win-win value for everyone at the table, and then do it again and again. So it's almost like a bit of a wrap. Find the pain, bring the gain, do it again and again. And that's consultative selling. Do I need 2 days to explain how to do all those things? Absolutely. But one of the biggest sins that I still see today, Denise, is not calling on the right level first.
I wanted to ask you, I'm taking notes while you're saying this. Influencer. You said influencer, and I'll be very frank with you. Anytime I hear or read that word, I just do what we call in the Deep South a whole body frisson. It's like, bleh. I just hate that word. I hate it. Yeah. But I don't think what I'm thinking of is what you're referencing at all. So can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. So as mentioned, there's decision makers, and they all have roles. So there's influencers. So influencers in the context of business decision making, there's different flavored, if you will, influencers. There could be a technical influencer. There might be an operational influencer. There could even be a financial influencer. So they play a role in decision making or selection, but they don't have the autonomy to make the decision. They are part of, so they add influence to the decision making process. So the decision makers, they're people, they're typically in the C-suite or in a smaller company. They could be the business owner or senior management of some ilk. So a lot of salespeople are calling on influencers first, and they can't make decisions. All they can do is peddle some influence, and that's good or bad. And why is it? They love free food. They love going for lunch. They love wearing your swag, going to the ball game. But they're not the people that make the decision, and that so many salespeople get stuck. I call it influencer lockdown. They're stuck at the influence, and good luck climbing the ladder once you're in there. So it's always better to go high first, then leverage corporate gravity. You'll meet the influencers after you've met the decision maker, for sure.
Corporate gravity. I love that. Ian, how do you identify these people so you don't get stuck at the bottom rung?
Well, it was way harder back in the day, right? Because there was no internet. There were no websites. I'd be sitting in someone's, reception area, and I'm reading their annual report, or quarterly review. I mean, you could garner a bunch of information and figure out who the right people are that way. But that was the long way. Now you can go onto their websites. You can look them up on LinkedIn. You can find out a lot about who the target decision-making team are before you make that first call. So it's worth getting ready. Before anything else, preparation is the secret to success. And these days in sales, we've got to invest in that. If you can identify who they are first, half the work's done. Now it's getting in to see them. And that takes definitely some patience and some persistence. But now you're not stuck in the influencer lockdown mode. Now you're talking to people, and they will say, well, let's also get you involved and talk to this fellow, this woman. And they're involved, but you're no longer at the mercy of influencers. The decision maker, as I call it, corporate gravity, they're inviting you to talk to the rest of the team. That's where you want to be.
And that makes sense. And I'm going to rant a little bit about podcasters. You are one, I is one, but we get hammered. I mean, I get requests daily, multiple times a day, Monday through Sunday. And it's clear, it is so easy to figure out instantly who did not do their homework. They don't know who I am, what my podcast is about. They're just scattergunning it. That's irritating. And if you do it to me enough, I will block you. So if you're trying to think that I'm an influencer, I'm not. I'm the boss.
Right.
And I'll tell anybody that people say, Denise, you've got such a great team. You're talking to her. Don't tick me off is my point. So
I know what you mean, Denise, with the podcast. I get, maybe not, you've been doing it longer than I'm only a 5-year person. You're a lot longer than that at podcasting. And I don't know, there's probably 4 or 5 requests a week from people who call themselves podcast promoters.
And bookers, they drive me crazy.
Yes. And it's like they need training. They're just shotgunning. They're like, here's all the downloads. It's a machine gun instead of a rifle with an aim. And the aim is, let's find out who they are first. Do they even want to promote? Are they happy? Is a podcast a hobby for them? And their other businesses are the real main show for them? I know, it's spray and pray. I call that spray and pray, and it just does not work.
It doesn't. And honestly, and I'm going to tell anybody who's listening, as I mentioned, we are both podcasters. We know each other. And if you tick us off enough, we've got a little chainmail going on. We will rat you out. So Don't do it.
Exactly.
Find the people that you need to talk with, Ian or me, And treat us like you would any other high-level executive.
Yes.
That's my best advice.
It's great advice, Denise. And be on time, be prepared, and don't reschedule. Those are the things that tick me off on the podcast world.
I've been pretty good, but I've got a heck of a system that I've built over the years. So I've got so many touch points that it's hard to ignore me. So I've made sure that happens. But I wanted to ask you, we're still talking about the 7 deadly sins and thank you for listening to me rant about the podcast. I really do. Just this morning, I got 4 more. I was like, really? Stop it. I've already asked you to stop. I mean it. Stop it. So, and then I block. But you're talking about the 7 deadly sins, and you mentioned one at least that is a big one. What are a couple of others that people really need to say, hey, yeah, maybe I'm doing this and I need to stop?
Well, another one, and this is a big one. Some people are just, I wouldn't say born, but they have an innate ability to keep on track, to have a system, or to have that persistence, that never say die kind of attitude. A lot of people don't have what I call is a sales plan. So if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So not having a plan is so critical. And in my methodology that I train and also built into the software I'm a partner in, is a plan is all about figuring out what level of activity you need to generate the pipeline required that will end up giving you the results you want, right? So having a plan, and I reverse engineer. What's a sales plan? Well, you start with your target. What's your overall quota for the year? And let's call it $5 million. Now, every salesperson, anyone who's overachieved and been recognized for overachievement knows they don't want to go for 5 million. They want to stretch it out, maybe go for 7 million because they'll make more, get more recognition, all those things. So then the math just reverse engineers its way down to, apart from all the account reviews I have to do with my existing clients, and they better be professionally managed and facilitated with an account review tool, such as the one Apple got from IBM.
You got from them. So,
what did we? I guess we bought it, or because we hired people and they had it. And once you know it, you can't unlearn it, right? So,
right.
But the other thing, Denise, to the sales plan is how many new sales calls does someone need to make in order to get that target, that sales plan completed? And that comes right down to a monthly number. So how many new sales meetings, which is a new deal into the pipeline, does a salesperson need every month? So when I do follow-up coaching, I look at 3 things. I look at their activity. If their sales plan says, I needed to add 20 new deals to my pipeline last month, and when I'm doing my monthly sales review with someone, they only did 16, I'd say, okay, that's a good effort, but you owe me 4 more next month. I need you to do 24. Because if we get behind on the activity, it will never catch up. And so, the activity needs to be consistent. Activity develops pipeline. And now within the pipeline, there's stages of a pipeline: interested, discovered, qualified, selected, and then closed. So within the pipeline itself, Denise, there's an interested to closed meeting. To close ratio rather, right? So if your close ratio is 5-1, that means you need to have, at least 5 more times pipeline to get your desired result. So all of that, all of those numbers mean a lot when it comes to selling. Is a lot like baseball. There's a lot of stats, and we have to pay attention to the most important stats and be held accountable to ensure that we never fall behind. Because in month 6 in a fiscal year, it's too late to go back and try and double down on activity. Too much time's gone by because the meter's running, right? The meter starts at, month 1 of your fiscal year. So one of the big things that's missing, another one of the deadly sins, is failure to have an actual sales plan. Another one that drives me nuts, and it's even more in vogue these days, is thinking that a CRM will fix you, right? Thinking that we go out and buy the best, the latest, greatest CRM, and that'll fix us. Well, I liken that to a little golf scenario. I'm thinking probably many of our listeners have play golf or have at least tried it so they can identify with this analogy I'll give you. Going out, if you've got a bad golf swing, which is a process. So, your grip, your stance, your tempo, there's a whole bunch of things going on in golf. If you just go back to the pro shop and buy yourself one of those massive drivers, the big Bertha, the biggest Bertha, now what happens to you? You're even deeper in the woods, right? So that's what CRMs is not going to fix a sales process. You have to fix your sales process first, and then you can figure out what is the right CRM that supports this process. CRM is not process. It's a tool to help manage it and help roll it up so it can mean something to anyone who's using it. So that's the seventh of the seven deadly sins right there, is thinking CRM will fix you, and it will not. I promise you.
No, I agree with you. It won't.
There's another meaning for the reference of CRM. Cash runaway monster is what it can also stand for if you don't do it right, right? Oh my God.
And stay on top of it. And look, as salespeople, I'm a salesperson. If I would have argued with you 10, even 20 years ago, I am not a salesperson. Of course I am. I finally had to admit it to myself, but I always thought if anybody called me a salesperson, they were saying, oh, you're going to sell cars or insurance. No, I'm not.
We're all selling, Denise. Everyone really, when you think about this life, trying to get something you want or to influence a decision, there's a sale going on there.
Oh, absolutely. Watch any 3-year-old. Do they ever lose? No.
Oh my God. My grandkids, they've got me wrapped around their finger. If mom and dad said no, go ask Papa.
Right. That's exactly right. They know where the soft spot is. But, sales is something that we all do. Listen, if we're trying to date somebody, that's sales. If you're going to, write out your resume, that's sales. Whatever we're doing, we're selling something. Listen, I was selling an argument to my cat this morning. No joke. Won't even tell you what the argument was about. I lost because he's a 3. He's 9 years old, but he's like a 3-year-old. He's going to get his own way, and I just give in and say, all right, fine, you do it your way. But we're always selling, and we have to be aware that what we're selling, how we're selling, and how we're going to show up. If you're just going to do the used car sales thing, don't. Just right. Don't. But if you really have a connection, and you and I have talked about this before, connecting and networking are not necessarily the same thing, but they have to go hand in hand. But you have to be able to connect with whoever you're talking with, whether you're trying to get past the influencer or you're trying to get on a podcast. You need to connect with us. We need to connect with you. There has to be some level of, oh, I gotcha. Okay. You can't just throw stuff out there and hope that it sticks.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about what are the 3 most important things in real estate? And I've heard people for decades tell me location, location, location. And I would say the 3 most important parts of sales is relationship, relationship, relationship. If you've got a trusted relationship, you could have customer loyalty for life.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Yep.
So the first thing you're selling on any sales call is not the product or the service. Leave that in the trunk of the car. You're selling the relationship. What would the value be of a relationship between, a C-level person and a consultative salesperson? You want to sell that role. You want to sell your role first. That's all about relationship.
And you have to be honest about it. You have to be honest with yourself and with them. You can't, so many people, and I'm seeing this a lot, particularly with AI taking a big chunk of our focus these days. And I love AI. Don't get me wrong. I use it. I love it. But I'm noticing, and I bet you are as well, that so many people are just kind of abdicating over to AI, not realizing that it's not their friend. It's not their, as we say in the Deep South, your cousin. They're not your cousin. They're a tool, and you have to use it as it's a tool. And you need to train it in your own voice and your own path. And if you don't do that and you're abdicating to AI, you're not going to be in sales long.
I totally agree. I think AI, and it's here to stay, right? It's not
no question.
passing trend or anything. It's finding its way into the fabric of life. It truly is, beyond business as well. But AI is not going to replace the salesperson. I'm sorry if anyone disagrees with me, and fine, we can agree to disagree. A human needs to build a relationship with another human, right? And can AI play a role on both sides of the desk to help us with productivity and some of the tasks that, have traditionally taken maybe too long or too much time? Sure, AI's got a role. There's a place for it in all aspects of life, but it will not take the place of relationships. It can help us with them, but the salesperson, the human being, has to lead that charge. No doubt. I think that will always be the case.
Oh, no kidding. And that kind of goes back to what my other question was going to be: where do teams struggle the most? People, process, or performance? And I think you just spelled it out. It's people.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Often I'm brought in at first at the C-suite, and I do something called a sales assessment. So it's all about people. So I interview all of their salespeople, all of their management, put together a report, a recommendation report, which is kind of like, if I had shares in your company, here's the 4 or 5 things I would do, not 45 things, because again, too many things, right? So 4 or 5 high impact changes. And one of them quite often is some of their people aren't right. They're not in the right role. They've got them in the wrong role. So getting the people part, especially in sales, getting that crafted first is job one. Then you lay down the appropriate process. So it's consistent. We're all doing it the same. We're singing in our own voices, but we're singing the same song. And then you can crank up performance. So people, process, then performance. But it starts with the right people first.
Well, let's go back to process, because I've seen this time and time again. As you know, I'm a techie nerd. I'm a big nerd. I have
Nerd and
stilettos.
stilettos. That's
I
who you
am
are,
a
Denise.
nerd.
You're the nerd
I
and stilettos.
am. Let me tell you, that happened years ago. One of my guests, we were chatting, and I love all of my guests. I'm so appreciative of all of y'all. And he asked me, he said, Denise, what is it that you do? And I just went, because it's not about me, it's about you, the guest. And I had to think fast, which all I could come up with is, well, I have a computer science degree that nobody cares about. I have a closet full of stilettos and, designer bags that looks like Nordstrom threw up in there. I'm a highly committed introvert, so I really don't go anywhere. But when I do, I look good. And I said, I guess I'm a nerd in stilettos. And he said, call me when this is over. And I did. I always do. And he said, Denise, why have you not branded yourself as a nerd in stilettos? And, I mentioned that I have cats and a dog and, it was just rambling. And I said, I don't know. He said, well, you need to think about it. And here's the thing, Ian, when the publicist for the Academy Awards says do something, you do it. So that's
Yeah.
how that came to be.
And it was great advice, and I think it's fabulous. I mean, that's unique. And that is you, as you said,
It
Nordstrom.
is. Yeah.
Nordstrom knows your house very well. I'm sure it delivers, and you're on their frequent buyer program, right?
No, I had to quit. I had to wean myself. I don't need any more stilettos, but I've got them. If I ever need them, I've got them.
You got them.
But
That's it.
I do. And I wanted to, but and I lost my train of thought because I got distracted by my nerd. But I am a nerd, and listen, even people who are not nerds are looking at AI. Give you an example. My sister's very much the corporate person in our house. I'm not. I'm the creative in our family. I'm the creative one and the one that's going to go do whatever the heck she wants to do. My family figured that out many years ago. We were having a long conversation yesterday, and she is so excited. She's taking Chat GPT courses. I would have never, ever thought that somebody like her would be because I've shared a few things with her. She's like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. She's paying to take courses. I'm like, well, good for you.
I can see that. I mean, it's here. It's here to stay. And again, it's got a role for anyone.
It does. And that's
You
my
could.
point.
Yeah, it really does. I remember I was out with a buddy a while back, and he just gone through a divorce, and he's trying to get onto the dating world. And I said, well, you're going to have to write yourself a little dating profile and put it up on whatever sites you want to use. And He said, well, let me ask Chat GTP. So he asked for a dating profile from Chat, and it came up. And I'm like, that's brilliant. If I was a girl, I'd date you. That's so well worded.
And Perplexity, are you familiar with Perplexity AI?
No, no.
Well, go for it. Listen, and you might want to do this with your podcast. As I said, I get hundreds of these things, over a month or two. I can literally get 100 requests. And the ones that I'm interested in, I will go to Perplexity, not Chat, because Perplexity does a really deep dive. And I'll say, okay, who is this person? They're the author of, and I'll give it a little bit of information. Who is this person? And then my next question is, would they be a fitting guest for your Partner in Success Radio? You would not believe the stuff it delivers.
Wow.
Yeah, go to perplexity.ai. It's free. You'll love it.
I've
You can
written
thank
that
me
down,
later.
Denise. I'm going to be, once we're done yakking, it's going to be a Google search for me.
There you go. I love it. Between Chat and Perplexity, and I will go back and forth between them. I got so mad at Chat recently. I was asking it to help me write a piece of code that was just killing me. And finally, it kept giving me the wrong code. It wasn't understanding, or I was I don't know what was going on. But I finally, this is no joke. I said, all right, Chat. And I call him Uncle Chat. Go to bed. I'm tired. You're tired. I don't want to hear from you anymore. So this is the God's honest truth. It came back. He said, you're right, Denise. That's the best advice I've had all day. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Excuse me, that is funny. It answered you. Oh,
It answered me. I took a screenshot of it because I thought, oh, great. Now it knows where I live. Great. Just wonderful.
That's funny.
But you have to be careful with it all. Don't take anything and everything it says as gospel. Just don't, but use it as a tool, and you will be amazed at what you can do and find out and create and craft.
For sure. And in fact, it's a great starting place. Sure, you want your style, you want your flavor, your spirit, but you can edit what you get from it, and it's probably a great place to start. A lot of people use it as a starting block, right? You tweak it as you go, but I mean, something that can bang out a couple of pages of detail for you in seconds that you just have to edit. That's a tool. That's a time saver.
It is. And when you're talking about sales and you're talking about, getting your focus right, and you're talking about having a plan, go to either or both of these and start writing your plan and tweak it, based on what Ian is sharing with us here, and tweak it and get it in your binder, like stain binder, virtual binder, wherever you're going to put it. But have that thing as a living document.
Yes. The most important part of a plan, Denise, in my experience, is the accountability. It's so when you have to go and talk to someone, your coach or someone, and you can even do it with peers, right? The accountability doesn't have to necessarily be outsourced. You can do it on a team. But when you know you're going to be accountable, you're going to get the work done.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, you want to clean your house? Have a party. Before the guests arrive, you're going to make your house presentable, right?
Oh,
So
you should see my house the week before Thanksgiving. I clean everything.
That's what I mean. It's exactly what I mean, right?
But when I know a hurricane's coming, don't ask me why I do this, but when I know a hurricane's coming, and I've lived through many of them. In fact, I lived literally equidistant between Katrina and Rita, and I got clobbered by both. I cleaned the crap out of my house because I knew that I was going to be without power for a while.
Oh.
And that, anything that's laying around or dusty or is going to drive me bonkers.
Yes.
And if I've got no power, no electricity, no way to cool myself down, it can get deadly. So I clean.
You clean out your fridge because stuff will go bad.
Oh, yeah.
You've got no power, right?
Yep, absolutely. It's interesting here during hurricane season, which is now, by the way. But Ian, you have built, I'm sorry, I keep veering off course here. You have built a career not only in sales, but also as an author and a podcast host. What drives you to keep sharing your expertise?
Well, it's the book thing. My first book, many, many years ago. I've got 7 now, but I just thought, you know what? I'm going to recruit a team, and they might not be able to describe what's in my heart, what my passion is. So if I write it down, if I put it into a book, they can read it and share it with people they're talking to. So that was that's probably what motivated me to do my first book, Denise. And it adds credibility. There's no question. Just like yourself, you have. I know of all the guests you've had on your podcast through the years, you've got a bookshelf full of books from your guests. I've got one as well. I'm sure it's nowhere near as big as yours, but
Oh, I've got 3 bookshelves and a basket. I've run out of places.
you see, there you go. You're gonna have to go to IKEA and get another modular bookshelf
No,
for the
I
new
need a
one.
bigger house, a bigger room,
The
which is not going to
podcasting you
happen.
go, strangely enough, it was it was a COVID thing. I had a bunch of speaking and training gigs all over the US and Canada, booked, as many of us did, and COVID hit, no flights, no one's in a room, we're all wearing masks, the whole thing. So I needed a hobby. So I thought, why don't I start this podcasting thing? I'll ask one of my technical buddies, a good friend named Andy Gray, and I said, "Do I need a high end studio? Do I have to spend?" He said, "No, no, no, no. There's ways to do this on the down low that the quality's great." And he still today produces my podcast. So I think my first 10 or 12 episodes, Denise, was just me talking by myself, sharing some of the content in my books. As I listen back, 200 and whatever it is, 40 something episodes later, my first episodes were terrible by comparison. You actually get better at it as you go. So I started to think, I better start having guests on the show. These poor listeners must be sick of my voice by now. I'm sick of my voice already from listening back to what I just said. And it just grew its own legs. I've had people like yourself around the world, Australia, New Zealand, India, all over the US, Canada, France, the UK. And I love doing it. To me, it's giving back. Now with COVID long over, it's still a passion of mine. It's sales, professional selling has been very good to me. It's been very generous to me. My entire career, my entire sales, business career. That doing podcasting, sharing great content from great guests is a way of giving back to a profession that's been so generous to me. So it's a platform for sharing, and I love to promote my guests. I love to give the listener some value every possible time, and I'm still able to get a new episode out every week. And you're coming soon on my podcast as well, Denise. I
I
can't wait to
know.
have your episode drop live.
And I have to tell you, I am so rarely on the other side of the mic that I'm not entirely sure how I sounded, if I sounded, yeah, okay, or, oh my God, she's nuts. But either way, thank you.
No, you sounded great, by the way. I've listened to it, and I'm looking forward to it dropping. It'll be in the September time frame because, like yourself, there's always if you will, a pipeline of guests. And but no, I still love podcasting. And you're right. You do it, you get better at it, and then you also learn things about certain people. Some people want to be a guest to make it all about them, and they don't reshare it with their network. It's just a me thing. And I don't like that. I like sharing value to the listener. The listener's our audience. That's the customer in the podcast world. So if you're adding value to the listener, you're doing a great job. But not all guests are the same. Like, I guess it's one way of saying it. You found the same thing, I'm sure.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's why I do a pre-interview many years ago. And I know this is not supposed to be all about podcasting, but podcasting is, in my view, marketing 101.
Yeah.
It's all about sales. So it does tie in to what we're talking about. But many years ago, I had this one lady come on, and she was bound and determined it was about her, and people had to go to her website. And she would say, well, if you'll just go to my website, and Ian, she would say, www. And I just went, I'm going to have to shut this down. And I did. I shut it down and I called her. She was not going to budge. It was about her. And that's when I learned that some people just want to use your billboard. Well,
That's
as
it.
we say in the Deep South, that ain't happening, hon. I mean,
Exactly.
you are invited to do so, and I do share it, but it's not all about whatever that you've got going on at the time. You're here to share information, tips, tricks, make
And share it with your
connections.
followers as well. It's reciprocity, right?
Exactly. So I called her and I said, listen, I'm sorry, but we're not going to be able to use that. Oh, I can come back. I said, no, ma'am. And she kept bugging me and bugging me. And I hadn't really done pre-interviews up until that point, but she changed my mind.
Yeah.
And finally, she bugged me so profoundly. I called her back and I said, listen, I'm not going to invite you back. And she said, well, I don't understand why. And that's how she said, I don't understand why. And in my best Southern voice, I Ellie Mae clampeted her to death. I said, because I don't like you. And that was the end of that. You know, if you're going to spend an hour on my show with me, I better like and respect you.
Absolutely. And you know what? Maybe no one's ever told her. She's just going about her life thinking, me show. This is the me show. Why
Yeah.
doesn't anyone let me on? Like, I don't like, yeah, come on.
Yeah,
Not
I do
fair.
hope it helped her, but I never did. She didn't speak to me again, and I didn't want her to. But I did learn a very valuable lesson. Do the pre-interviews. Make sure that you know who your guest is and what they're bringing to the table.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like you, I do a pre-Zoom call with all future guests and get to know each other,
Right.
walk them through the process and what the purpose of the podcast is about. And then I'm ready. Only once have I don't know, I had someone, their answers were like, yes, to a question I would ask them. They would say, yes, I do that. And that was that. That was it. It was a perfect opportunity for tell us how you do that, right? Like add some
Right.
value. So I didn't air that episode. That 1 in 240. Okay, it's the quality control has to be there. It has to be there.
It does. And let's talk about storytelling because sales is storytelling. It really is. You have to be
Great.
confident and comfortable in the stories that you're telling, and they have to be true, by the way. But they can be fun, they can be humorous, they can be snarky, but you have to be able to embrace your inner storytelling. So let's talk about that a bit.
Storytelling is critical. It's because, especially if you're selling something technical,
Oh, yeah.
right? It really, because not everyone gets what you're talking about. You're speaking a language that a lot of people have no idea. Yeah, maybe other technical people, they can have that, that tech to tech chat, wind up their propellers together and have a great time. But you need to be able to translate. And one of the best ways to translate is to storytell, whether it be an analogy. I remember selling against IBM back in my Apple days. And was there a whole bunch of technology to talk about? Yes. I chose not to. I chose to say, you shouldn't have to be a mechanic just to drive a car. And so people all have car. Okay. Oh, so this is an automatic transmission versus having to have a clutch and change. That's it. You got it. So get on the mouse and try it. Boom. Right now they're convinced that the storytelling brings something alive. I think when you're doing a podcast, or storytelling in general, it's a bit like commentating. Now, if you're listening to, Monday Night Football, and there's the two commentators, one's doing the play-by-play, the other person's doing the color. And their storytelling, back when I played for the Patriots, blah, 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 that story brings it all alive. Sure, we need the play-by-play, but what brings it to life, gives it real meaning and value, is the stories that go around it. Storytelling has always been a wonderful way to communicate in any platform, be it a podcast, be it a presentation. If you're doing a presentation to an audience or a presentation to a small group, even to your family or friends, if you storytell in those, that's what encapsulates the value and brings it alive. Storytelling is a wonderful way to do that.
And it's something that we can either learn or it's innate. For me, it's innate because I don't know when to shut up. But for a lot of people, they're just natural at it. And those are the people that we tend to gravitate to. And then we trust them. We trust their business. We trust who they are. It's basically, as my friend Ben Gay III says, it's know, like, and trust. You do
Yes,
business with people you know, like, and trust, and with whom you're comfortable.
absolutely. And early on, to get to know that relationship, as Ben says, and he's a master at his craft. I have huge honor and respect for the man. He's done so much. He's made a huge dent in the sales universe. He really has. And building that relationship, a great way to do that is to storytell, because now you put it into a context that they can understand. and they'll start storytelling back to you. And now you're just bouncing off of each other. And all of a sudden, we've gone from no to like, and then that ends up in trust. And that's so hard you can kill trust real easily. But if you are smart about this, that trust can be there for a lifetime.
And almost instantly.
Right.
You can create these connections pretty quickly. I do them a lot in my pre-interviews.
Yes.
I'll be honest with you, I've had, and I'm going to have to start putting these somewhere because some of these pre-interviews are so good, and I've had people say, are we going to share that part? No, because it's part of the pre-interview. But now I'm going to go back and say, listen, can I use this in a members only part? Because some of them are so good.
Oh, yes.
That I've made lifelong friends just in that pre-interview.
Yes. Oh, for sure, Denise. It's again, it's relationships, right? With the right people, there's a connection. You talked about that earlier.
Exactly. Yep.
And once that's there, you're bouncing off of each other. You know, you like, and to use Ben's word, you trust them, right? It's a chain. It all goes together if you go about it properly.
It does. Now, I wanted you to tell us very quickly, because we are running out of time. I knew this was going to go quickly. Tell us about your sales look philosophy. Why is less more?
Oh, yes.
And it's such a powerful approach in sales. Tell us why.
Sure, Denise. Thanks for asking. With the work I've done around the world training, typically they try and integrate my sales methodology into the CRM that they might be using. And that, typically it's Salesforce.com or HubSpot. There's a bunch of them out there. And that costs a lot of money to do. And salespeople typically don't like using them. And when I'm doing my monthly sales review, I have to look at their pipelines, look at their activity. So it becomes an arduous task. So a number of years ago, I thought, these poor salespeople, they're handcuffed to the keyboard. No wonder they can't get out and build enough relationships a month, because their company wants them to become great typists so they can type in all the data.
Good
If
point.
it takes longer to type it into the system than it did to have the meeting, that's not helping anyone.
Right. And that kills your creativity.
Totally kills creativity.
And you have to have creativity to be a salesperson.
Yes, you do. And you have to have that. You need the time to go and build those relationships, create that know, like, and trust model that we were just talking about. And so I thought, well, listen, if I could wave a magic wand called technology, how about I would build a CRM platform that was simple? So we got it. It's called Sales Look. I won't say it's on my website, like the guest you didn't air. But the sales world's adopting it well. They're embracing it for a number of reasons. Two of the big ones is freedom and focus. I'll just talk about those, because you're right. And sometimes less is way more. And what does that mean? Well, it means if you can enter a deal in your pipeline in 7 seconds versus 10 minutes on traditional CRM platforms, what have we just done there? We've given salespeople more time to do what they do best, which is to build relationships and sell more. So that's the freedom piece. The focus is SalesLook is a very visual tool. It is a pipeline with colored cells, which are different lines of business, and the detail of all the deals are in the shape of your pipeline: interested, discovered, qualified, selected, and So when you look at your pipeline, you already know what's going on. We've integrated coaching into it. I've even got some video-based sales training of me teaching what the methodology is about, and it's all built into the platform. So that's the focus piece. If you're a sales leader, we have a team view in SalesLook. So say you're a sales leader, you might have, 5, 10 salespeople. You see their entire pipeline. You can click into one of your people's pipeline and look at it from a coaching perspective, and it rolls it right up. So it helps you, again, not just the salesperson with freedom and focus, it helps the sales leader give you that access. And people who start using SalesLook, they never stop, because it becomes their friend. It's so easy to use that people don't mind updating SalesLook because it takes seconds. You can drag and drop a deal from one category to another. You don't have to drill into it and, at least find it. Some CRMs, even going back to find the information, can be an arduous task. So that's the thing about SalesLook, folks. It's freedom and focus. It's far less expensive than traditional CRMs. And the biggest difference is the time it gives back to salespeople to do what they do best.
Exactly. And this is where I do invite you to use me as your billboard. So where can people find out more
Well,
about you and
folks,
connect with you and Sales Look?
for sure, Denise. Happy. We have the website is saleslook.com. So it's pretty simple. Saleslook, all one word.com. We have on that website a free 30-day trial. So if you want to just, don't take my word for it, give it a test drive, get in the car and drive a little bit. You'll see how easy it is to drive this car. You don't have to be a mechanic to drive that sales car. I can promise you that. So that's a great way. There's video demos. There's lots of things that help. The website is very detailed, and knowledge base is there for lots of training. Give it a try. And if anyone needs to talk to me about Sales Look, I don't mind talking to anyone. Like yourself, Denise, I love chatting about things I'm passionate about. Sales Look is one of the things I'm passionate about.
I hear that. Well, Ian, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights from your early days at Apple. And I love those stories, to identifying the 7 deadly sins of sales and walking us through your sales mentor framework and explaining why less is more can be such a powerful sales philosophy. And you have given our listeners practical strategies they can put to work immediately to improve forecasting, strengthen customer relationships. Everybody write that down. Strengthen customer relationships and drive real growth. But before I wrap, where can people find more about your podcast?
The podcast, I'm on all the platforms just like yourself, Denise. It's Confessions of a Sales Pro. If you go on to Apple or Spotify or Google, you'll find it there. You can also find it on my website, which is salesmentoru, the letter U, all one word, .com. So you can go back to all the episodes. You can, they're all on that platform as well. But whatever you're used to using, if you just search Confessions of a Sales Pro, you'll find the podcast. Listen to the Denise episode coming soon, folks.
I'm going to listen to it. And I never listen to my own voice.
You'll love it,
Yes,
Denise. I promise you. I've heard it. You're going to love it.
Oh, good. I'll trust you. Well, Ian, I appreciate the insights and the real world strategies you've shared. And there's so much here that sales professionals and leaders and podcasters can put into action immediately. And to our listeners, I invite you to connect with Ian Selbie at salesmentoru.com, as he just mentioned. Check out his podcast, Confessions of a Sales Pro, and I will be his guest soon, and tap into the resources that he offers to help you and your team sell smarter, lead stronger, and grow with purpose. This is your Partner in Success Radio. I am Denise Griffitts. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Ian, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Denise. It's been my pleasure, my friend. Your Partner in Success Radio. I love the title, and I love Nerd in Stilettos. I love that you branded that.
Me too, and I would have never thought of it. Well, thank you, everybody, and I'll see you next week.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.